And sets another day. Billions will kneel and pray. Anything to aid escape from the world so cold and gray.
And welcome back to another episode of Bones and Tubbs. We're back again this week after myself, Tubbs, went on vacation. If you join us on Instagram, you'll see I posted a few videos of that vacation. I went to the wonderful and amazing and enlightening Washington, D.C.
The head corporation.
The capital in and of itself, whether you see it in the dystopian or utopian light, the capital of this country. And let me tell you something. I think I learned something this week going to the capital, and I'm going to kind of shell that out for you guys here today on the show. At least partially. We got a few other things we're going to talk about today. Kind of a hit back. I think something was sent to us, and I don't know what we filed this under. This is definitely something we've talked about before. I wouldn't call it Mandela effect by far, but I feel like it kind of floats in that same sphere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same weird connective tissue that somehow connects things that shouldn't connect or make any sense at all.
The thing that fucks me up the most about it is I saw a picture like 2 weeks ago about this same thing, and I was like, well, and I just kind of filed it away, and then I got that story tagged, like a second nod from the universe, like, hey, talk about it.
Yeah. It's definitely strange. I looked into it a little bit when you sent me that yesterday, and I couldn't believe it, but if you're wondering, I don't want to keep you in suspense. If you haven't looked it up, there's apparently a series of books from the late, 19th century?
Yeah.
Called The Marvelous Adventures of Baron Trump.
Yeah.
And those of you who don't know, Baron Trump is actually the name of the president's son. And there's stories about a boy that goes on adventures. Kind of akin to, like the Hardy Boys or something like that, except way before the Hardy Boys' time.
Wasn't he the son or something of the last... What do they call it?
No, well, they made a book. The last book in the series is called The Last President.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But first, I wanted to shell out my adventures in our capital, the District of Columbia.
District 1.
District 1, yeah.
You know.
Oh, it's definitively District 1, too. Or it's like their little version, their utopia of what they want it to be like.
Yeah, but they're all walking around with like purple hair and drinking stuff to make them throw up so they can eat more food.
Shit's crazy, dude. So no, me and Tobeans, we went to Washington D.C. this last week. It was our vacation this year. We decided we wanted to do some sightseeing and see some memorials and see some other stuff there. Good times. There was, like I said, it's not like I had a fun time on the trip. It was stressful times sometimes. Don't get me worried. I'm not used to that big city living. So,
right.
That first day, we kind of got lost on the way. We took our car into the city and just parked in a parking garage and then got lost trying to find the parking garage.
Of course.
And asked people for help. And a couple people gave us some help. But other ones were just like...
At least you weren't robbed and raped.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, at one point, and this wasn't the first day. This was like the third day in. We were looking for something. I think we were looking for a metro station. It was just down the street from where we were, but we weren't quite sure. And we asked this woman, who was with another woman, we said, hey, do you know where such and such station is? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And as they walked away, the other one said to her, why didn't you just tell him?
What a fucking bitch.
Right?
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself, dude. You piece of fucking shit. Other tourists that were there, once we had figured out the metro and figured out where everything was at, if any other tourists needed help, we were more than happy to, lend them our advice on how to do things. You know what I mean? Fuck them. Fuck these city dwellers, too, man.
Yeah.
I seriously think, the whole notion of, honking your horn to signify you fucked up is lost on them. They honk at everything.
Yeah.
Like, you take too long at a light, honk. I mean, just like, it could be just like a millisecond. Like, you had to be a fucking precog for them not to honk at you.
They're just waiting.
Like, yeah, and it's just, like I said, I think they've been desensitized to it. Because after a week there, we would get honked at, and I was like, neither of us would care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, from where we're from, if you get honked at,
you fucked up.
you fucked up.
Right.
And the same thing goes for when I honk at people. If I'm honking at somebody,
You fucked up.
I am fucking angry with you because you fucked up.
It's the same as putting a gun in someone's face.
Exactly.
No.
So, first day we were there, we got to see all the sites, and we got to see the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial and Vietnam, Korean memorials and all that stuff. It was a good time.
Did you get to see any of the buildings with like the Greek gods?
Yeah.
What's up with that?
There was actually a few statues I took pictures of that were fucking strange. Like there's in front of the Library of Congress, actually, there's this huge like fountain thing with these like looks like Greek statues, and like there's a man in the center, and he's like looking all Zeus-like.
Yeah.
And then there's two women on the other sides of him. They're both riding horses, right, bare-breasted.
Yeah.
Mind you, most of the female statues in D.C. got their titties hanging out.
Did you see the Greek interpretation of George Washington that is in the Baphomet position?
Yeah, like this.
I'll post this to the Instagrams, but it's that statue.
Oh yeah, that's in
and then that's the Baphomet.
Yeah, that's actually in the American History Museum. Like, you literally walk in, and to your left, as you walk in, you see that statue.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought that one was weird, and I was like when we walked up on it, I was like, kind of looks like Zeus.
Yeah,
I was like, it doesn't really, to me, strike George Washington. It
Right.
looks like Zeus, right?
yeah, strange.
Yeah, a
A lot
weird.
of occult symbolism.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. We found what's crazy is I found swastikas in I took pictures of like the city architecture and stuff. And there's this building. I think it was part of the string, because a lot of times like a lot of the big U.S. federal buildings are stretches of buildings that go down streets, right? And I think it was the U.S. Department of Agriculture, maybe.
Yeah. Had
this strip that went all the way down, was just swastikas in a pattern. Over and over again.
I'd like to have Aaron Stearns on one time. We were talking, remember when they had that news story not too long ago of the witches that got together and were casting a binding spell on Trump
to
prevent him from accomplishing anything? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I asked him about it, and he said something along the lines of like, yeah, it works, but there's so much like occult magic in those buildings and in that place. Like, they've already cast their own spells on the fucking buildings.
Protective spells.
To protect them from group magic.
What the fuck?
It's fucking crazy, man.
You know what's crazy? Okay, I'm not trying to like suck up any power from another podcast. I'll leave that to other podcasters. They were talking on a thread from another podcast, last podcast on the left.
Yeah.
About these videos coming from Africa where there's like people who supposedly got curses laid on them, and like one dude was like a thief, and the guy cursed him to have bananas for fingers, and his fucking it's a video of his fucking fingers all deformed and shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it's probably fake.
Right.
Like, that's what Western media would tell me, is that it's fake.
Right.
But it's creepy shit. But like,
there's a lot of shit to that though, I think also. That's what I'd like to really go back, but I feel like my eyes would be
yeah. I mean, DC, like, and like I said, there was like a lot of, I mean, if you saw some owls, there were some owls like chiseled into like the buildings and stuff like that.
What about the Washington Monument?
It's just a big ass stone tower.
Yeah. Have you seen the power centers of the earth? It has something to do with the parallels and like ley line magic. But like every city that's on a certain ley line has a Washington Monument or an obelisk. Yeah. And it's like a power concentration thing. Well, it's neat.
It is neat, isn't it?
It is.
And the last time I had gone to DC was when we were in 8th grade. So, and here's the thing, like, how I remember it in my head and how seeing it as an adult, two different things. Either the city changed a lot, or my perceptions of everything changed exponentially because...
Correct.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's like, one, it seemed like back when I was a kid, it felt more open. Like, it felt like when you were out and about, like, especially, like, I think the most striking one was around the White House. But the thing is, like, all those buildings around the White House had to have been there when we went. But it just seemed more open back when I was a kid. Now everything seems closed in. Like,
what was the in front of the White House, what was the protest thing like? Because I remember when we went, there was a shitload of like Vietnam War protesters.
Minimal.
Still,
It
really
was minimal. There was the one that's always there about free Tibet and shit like that, and about how like the Israeli government is committing wholesale genocide on the Palestinians and stuff like that.
Fuck Zionism, yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, there was one other guy there, but we couldn't even read his sign. And then like the crazy part is when we were at the White House, either somebody was coming in or out or something. All I know is we were on our way. We were like looking at the White House and stuff, right? And the whole street's like cordoned off so people could just walk down the street. In the middle of it doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, the fucking the Secret Service is out there and everything. All of a sudden, they're like, "Get back, get back!" You imagine. I wanted to say, "Get the fuck back," but they didn't say that. They were more professional.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Get back!" And like they pushed everyone who was like right up against the White House and on the street all the way back to across the street. And these permanent yellow like markers, like caution tape, came out of the poles. Like they pulled them out and they rung them across and like cordoned us all off. And then
like cattle.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And like luckily we were already out on the other side of the street anyway, so we just sat on a bench and watched the show because we were like, something's going on.
Do you feel like you're an Animal Farm? You were looking in the farmhouse and the pigs are in people clothing, walking around on 2 feet.
For 20 minutes we sat there. We were just waiting on a dinner reservation, right? So it's like, and it was right up the street from where we were at. So we're like, fuck it, we'll just sit here and see what's going on. And for 20 minutes, they do this. Secret Service, full force out. Fucking, you got dudes with fucking assault rifles and all sorts of shit hanging out. One fucking black Suburban pulls up the road, goes in, the gate closes. About 5 more minutes go by, and then they cordon everything off and let everybody out again.
It's probably Jeff Sessions' Uber, and they were delivering his fucking weed for the day. He smokes it. No, he hates it so much.
But, the big thing about DC that I noticed, and I think I figured out part of the problem with liberal types. Not all liberal types, but some.
Yeah.
And I came up with I coined a phrase for it. I call it the multicultural bubble, right?
Okay.
Imagine you're a DC politician. You've been a politician for 20 years.
Far too long.
Yeah, and you've been in DC most of that time, right? Not really with your constituency, just inside DC. If you lived inside the DC bubble for X amount of years, you would begin to believe that that's what the rest of America looks like.
Just an absolute
melting pot.
Yeah.
I'm talking, there is every type of human being living there, and it is in a ratio that would lead you to believe that it is all split evenly.
No.
Like, you would believe that, no population would be higher than 10% over the other. Everybody's equal. You have immigrants from Africa, from India, from all over, not let alone the people that actually live there, plus the tourists. So all you're seeing is just this multicultural fucking kaleidoscope of peoples and colors and shades of peach and brown all over the place, right? So I think when you've lived that for a while, you think that's what the rest of America looks like, right? So you think when you talk about white privilege and shit like that, you can get away with it.
Right.
Because you're only hitting at a very small percentage of the population.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's what happens. And then even when they go out back into their constituency for elections and stuff like that, their handlers and their people collect the multicultural rainbow and put them up on the stage or in the front row.
Right.
So that when they look out into the crowd,
they feel like they're experiencing the same thing.
They're still in DC and they think this is what America looks like. When in reality, if you go to where we live or through the spans of the fucking West, you're not going to see that. You're only going to see these multicultural barrios in fucking major metropolitan areas. Outside of those, we're all shades of peach.
I'm tired of senators and congressmen. We already know this.
Well, and that is another thing I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to that here in a couple minutes to finish this little bit about the multicultural group, right? So, I think they feel like they can get away with talk and fly about, white privilege and stuff like that.
Right.
When, in reality, okay, does white privilege exist only in the sense that I believe that it's not really white privilege, it's class privilege.
Yeah, nothing to do with the color of your skin.
It has to do with how much money you have.
Right.
Okay? Because outside of that class, you really don't have anything else going for you. We all live under the same boot heel, basically.
Yeah. They took slavery from the Africans and put it on all of us.
Yeah. So I mean that's my 2 cents. I kind of my observation I noticed about DC is I think that's DC is the reason that these politicians lose sight of who actually puts those ballots in the ballot box, and basically the reason why Democrats have lost so much because they've lost touch with what America actually looks like still instead of what it actually is. And like I said, you would go to DC and think that like there are shitloads of all walks of life, when in reality they're really cordoned off to only certain parts of the country. Not to say I'm not saying anything against these individuals' rights whatsoever, right? As long as they don't infringe upon the rights of others, I really don't care. Yeah. But I think it is allowed for politicians to lose sight of what their constituencies are built of.
I think I just, I get a more and more sour taste in my mouth with politics every day that passes. Yeah. But it's like I'm looking at elections more like, if you fully believe that taxation is theft, and you just see these people arguing from the left and the right, they're just arguing about what they're going to do with your stolen money. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like a bidding process for thieving and murder. Yeah. I don't know. You prove the fact that we don't need congressmen and senators, though, with your travels, because you go there on a vacation, you know? Used to be fucking 3-month, 4-month trip on horseback. Yeah. And you went there to represent your neighborhoods, and now they're just fucking saying all the nice things to get elected, and then they've got their fucking income for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's true. This moves me into my next idea, and it's kind of been an idea that's been brewing since the trip. Is that I think, and an idea that's it's gone back a while, and I believe it's the notion that I think there needs to rise another political party, right? A new party. And the crazy part is it's not entirely reflective of my beliefs. I think it's a party that can reflect the beliefs of a multitude. And here's why. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, I can argue with someone all day certain points of logic when it comes to how I feel and how I believe politically. But at the end of the day, there's certain things I'm never going to get people to budge on, right? They're always going to feel a certain way about, no matter how much you try to red pill them, there's some things that you may not see eye to eye with them on. Yeah. It's just part of their moral compass, right? Right. So I want to create a party that envelops even those types. Like, we may not agree on everything, but we agree on enough that we can create a coalition, right? Not just a coalition, but a party. Yeah. So I was trying to think of a name for it, right? Think of the name for this party and where it sits on the political spectrum, because that's the other problem. Where does it sit? And I thought it should sit somewhere in the modernist area of the political spectrum. Maybe a little less authoritarian, than the other two parties. So more on the libertarian side, but still encompassing a right side and a left side, that can see eye to eye on a lot of things, but maybe not everything. So a centrist party, right? I don't have a name for it yet, but I have other things. I have the slogan: logic, reason, efficiency. That's the slogan. And the party animal is the owl. Nice. Yes. Wisdom. Yeah. Wisdom. Not in the occult sense. In just the cool, owls are cool and wise sense. Right. So I have this, and I have this idea, and I want to start this party. And I think Bones and Tubbs Nation can help me and us start this party. Now, I know you're an ANCAP, right?
I don't know what I am. Well, I just want to burn it all down.
Right. So you're leaning towards ANCAP. But here's the thing, though. I think this party can appeal to ANCAPs, ANCOMs, and everybody else in between. Because here's the thing. I think this is like, it moves beyond the personal mantra that moderation is the key to success, right? I think this moves into the political spectrum as well, and into a more collective sense with everyone. Moderation is the key to success. And, like you said, realizing that we don't need all this extra dead weight happening in our government, right?
It'd be a lot of fat cut off.
So one of the main party planks that I would build this party on is dissolving the House of Representatives. Now, hear me out, everybody. I am a true blue American. I believe in freedom. All those things, right?
Freedom would be putting everything to vote on the internet. That's a secure connection, and we don't require a fucking God King to elect.
And we've talked about this before. Now, here's the thing. That's the thing. I believe in that fully and firmly. We should get rid of the House of Representatives, right? I don't believe we should get rid of the Senate. I think the Senate still has a purpose. Because here's the thing. Without the Senate, all you really have when it comes to this whole voting system is mob rule. Now, mob rule, we've seen before, it has failed in other forms of democracy. Mob rule can lead to knee-jerk reactions to things. You need sensible individuals who are able to, you know, at least have some sort of stopgap.
Give you a hypothetical real quick.
Okay.
Well, let's say that we have this system that's secure as online banking, right? Where you vote on everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there'd be some kind of a test or something to assess whether or not you're a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
You know, and you couldn't get on there, or you're too dumb to fucking operate a computer. But let's say that we all come together and we decide that we're getting rid of the IRS. But the Senate says, no, we can't do that.
That's the thing.
What happens then?
Okay. That's a good question. I know exactly what happens then. And it's the exact same thing happens that if the president vetoes something, it can ultimately go back, and if a supermajority can overturn that veto, right? So if enough people get together and say, you're not saying no on this one, we're pushing it through.
The senators go home and they just start seeing people in masks like on...
And we're back.
So I think the final stopgap in anything that I'd be willing to sign on to is like, even if you did have the senators that were able to, you know, veto over and over again, like let's say that they just got corrupted by money, because money does that. Yeah. Right. We would have a group of people that would just show up at their houses, you know, with the purge masks on and just stare at their fucking gated cameras and let them know that
we're not
just
on
remember,
it. Yeah.
remember where you come from and what will happen to you.
Yeah, we're here.
Corruption is not tolerated in this new party.
We will create a new reign of terror upon you and everything that you love.
It's hard to stomach. I feel like that's one of the things that we lost with the old system was, you know, we sent these cats all the way across the country, you know, and then that bubble still existed, I'm sure, but only to the extent of relative safety. But at the end of their, you know, when they came back on vacation, they had to go back to their communities. Yeah. If they were fucking up, they got their fucking ass beat. Yeah. You don't get ass beatings anymore. No. My grandma was telling me a story when Boehner was a politician. He came back, you know, he's like from, was it Westchester or somewhere? Yeah. And he went to he loved the community so much that when he came back to his town folk, he rented out the entire golf course in Westchester so he didn't have to be around plebs. Oh, nice. Fuck you, bitch. Nice. You know?
Isn't that so nice of him?
They should have used one of those, like, half rollers that they used to roll bread in the kitchen and beat his fucking legs.
Yeah. Beat him about the body.
So I'm all about this new party, but I just also want to have the same governmental protection that they have, like, when they do things like 9/11 and not get in trouble. I want to be able to, like, burn down the IRS.
This new party, another plank of it that I've decided is true transparency.
Glass walls.
Glass
floors.
Everything. Yeah. Like, there should be very, very little that should be kept from the public. You know, troop movements and stuff like that. Those are things we necessarily don't have to know everything about.
What do you feel about a standing army with your, you know?
Well, here's the thing, and this is the other thing I've begun to think about is, I saw a statistic the other day. Now, I didn't have the time to look up and see and back it up and make sure that this was true. But it said that even if we cut 85% of our military budget, we would still have the highest military budget in the world.
Oh, yeah. We're basically like a charge card for the industrial complex, military industrial complex.
So why?
Right.
Why? Why do we have a boneyard in Arizona just full of unused planes worth millions of dollars apiece?
You remember what Dr. Doug Hurdy told us about on the on his tour or whatever? Like they get a Jeep or a truck they wanted to upgrade, and they would just take the one that might only have several thousand miles on it, and they just burn it in a burn pile. Mm-hmm. You know, what the fuck are you talking about?
So
waste.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like I said, the motto, logic, reason, efficiency. You got to trim the fat. Yeah. Like, I'm not even talking getting rid of entitlement programs altogether, right? I think there's a need for them to an extent. I think after X amount of time, you need to begin to prove why you need to be on it. Yeah. I don't think it should be, you shouldn't have carte blanche on entitlement.
Right.
You should have to justify your reason for being on it.
You could probably cut 99% of it and still be fine.
Like, I think, like, a lot of times it's almost like you gotta, like, I'm not all for bureaucracy on all levels of government, but with entitlement, I think it should be there. I'd also think, like, what sounds right to me is you would have, like like, say you're in an entitlement program. You're a single mother with 3 kids. Dad skipped out.
Yeah.
Right? Piece of shit.
Right.
Doesn't pay child support. She's on her own. She's working or trying to work, but she can't because she's got 3 kids to raise.
Right.
Right? That's deserving. Right? You know, but there's a price that comes with that. I think this should be community based, right? I think that a voluntary community tribunal should sit and decide over these cases.
Yeah.
I truly do. And I think it should be done by lottery. And I think we need to up the ante on civic duty as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no reason why, even if they're, like, you know, the worst case scenario that they all try to pimp to us while they're raising the amount of welfare spending, there's always a job you can do.
Yeah.
Like the late James Price.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's the thing, like, here's the thing, like, half the time when you get a lot of this entitlement stuff, they say, well, I can't work because I have to raise my kids. Okay, well, then we have to swallow a bitter pill with this. What would you prefer? A person to continue to be on entitlement or to offer government subsidy for childcare?
Right. I don't know, man.
And that's the thing. What are you going to do? And you can't take it into any kind of fascist route and say, like, well, we are compelling you to take birth control so this doesn't happen again. You can't do that to somebody, right?
Right.
The only thing you can do is try to help them in other ways. So, like I said, I think we need to take a more proactive approach when it comes to that. Because here's the thing, like, if you don't want the government in your shit and you can take care of your own shit, they shouldn't be in your shit.
Well, shouldn't that be the thing in the first place? It starts at the beginning of personal choice. You see, for them to go and continue to have kids or whatever and just expect that they're going to get these checks, fuck that.
No. Communal tribunal.
Right.
I know it rhymes, but I think it'd work.
Yeah.
I think if you set, like, 3 voting citizens into a tribunal and you have to do it, like, maybe, like I said, it's done by lottery. It's just like jury duty. You get picked up for the tribunal. You sit on it for, 3 days? Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Now, let's make it 5. You'll work 1 full 5-day week and hear cases of people trying to re-up their entitlement.
It should be a thing that just, I don't even know how you would get it into the minds of people, but you shouldn't want to be taken care of. It's like right now.
That's the and that's the key though. And I think that's where I'm getting at with this whole tribunal thing is okay, to fill out some paperwork and put all of your information into a nameless, faceless system that allows you to basically be anonymous and get that money is going to continue that.
Right.
But if you put a face on the person that you're asking money for,
Yeah.
because what would you rather do? If you had a money machine, let's not even an ATM, because ATM is your money, a machine that spits out money, and all you had to do was punch in some numbers, answer some questions, and you got cash from it. You would do that. Or would you rather go to a person that you very well may know because it's your community and ask them for money?
Right. They'd much rather do the faceless way, but if you had a face to it, yeah.
Exactly.
Plus, a lot of these communities, too, I'm sure have seen, like, just in my drive to the Factory of Sadness, you can see these houses in certain areas that are, you know, for a fact they're getting government money, right?
Yeah.
And they've got, like, a brand new Chrysler 300 with rims on it. Mm-hmm. Because they're not only taking from the government money, but they're also making tax-free, you know, drug money.
Exactly.
But that wouldn't be a problem in the new system anyway.
That's
because
yeah. Drugs would be legal.
Drugs are legal.
Yeah. That's part of the party platform too. Now, I'm still trying to figure out the name for this. I thought about going like with some like because I feel like this harkens back to the Greek philosophy and its foundations, like logic and reason, right? So, what would we call ourselves? Socratarians? Platonians?
Like Platonians.
Platonians? I like Platonians too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we encompass people from all sides. You know, we don't discriminate based on that. We believe in the principles and the founding belief system and our freedoms, right?
Yeah.
But we need to change things.
Oh yeah. Well, what's neat, and to step out of the hypothetical for a second, I just learned this. I mean, I guess I already knew it, you know, but I just filed it away. You know, in 2008 when we had our little market hiccup,
Yeah.
that was only a brief shadow of what happened in the 30s with the Great Depression.
You're talking about like the housing bubble,
right?
Basically,
the economy still took a massive shit. People lost their jobs, and all kinds of fucking shit happened. That was the rise of the fucking storage unit. You know, if you were making storage units at that time, you were making millions of dollars because people were having to sell their houses and get into fucking apartments.
Yeah.
Well, our national debt at the time was like $9 trillion.
Yeah.
We paid off everything. I should say the government paid off everything. They paid off every single person's mortgage, every business loan, everything was paid off. And yet we're still paying the banks. So the banks paid off the ledgers. They doubled or almost tripled our income. I'm sorry, our debt.
Yeah.
We now owe something over $20 trillion.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
And not a single person went to prison for that.
No.
And there were people who are culpable.
Right. There are
culpable individuals in this whole situation.
There are studies that prove that single event caused a rash of suicides. So they are culpable for murder, basically. Right?
For murder. I mean, here's the thing. When you're talking about like money and lives being affected this much on such a mass scale, there has to be like stopgaps in that behavior.
Right.
There has to be consequences for it.
There is.
Like, you know, I'm all about personal freedom, but when you have control like they have of the economy,
that's completely different.
That's a whole different story.
Nothing changed. You know, the whole system that fucked up in 08 is still going on to this day.
All they did was go around and change all the names of everything.
Right.
Like, they didn't really do much of anything else.
If you are currently on government benefits or in a situation where you are going to become on government benefits, you need to do everything you can to get off of it, because I guarantee you right now that by the end of, I would say, you know, it's hard to put a timeline on this shit, but if you're looking at all the things that happen and all these people that have called it in the past, they're saying that by the end of this year or next year, it's going to happen again on a big scale.
Yeah.
And it's going to be global because of the fact that all these central banks have just done the same thing. They paid off all their shit and then just raised the debt.
Yeah.
I mean, those checks are going to stop one way or another.
Yeah.
You're going to quit. And I think that if you look across like the Google News, you'll see like across the country, they've done spotted outages of welfare benefits, right? The EBT cards don't work.
Yeah.
I think that's fucking testing.
Let's see what
to
happens.
see what happens.
Oh, you know what's going to happen.
Right.
Blood in the streets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
the purge are coming. Plus, you see all the fucking international saber rattling? Mm-hmm. Russia, fucking Iran, China, North Korea.
Well, did you hear about Russia kicking out like 700 some odd U.S. diplomats?
Yeah.
That shit's for real.
Historically, great wars happen during times to cover up fucking financial shit.
Yeah.
Well, we're right on the doorstep.
Well, I think this is the perfect time for our party to rise up. The Platonians.
I like to think of it the same way the back of the dollar bill represents it, and not the eagle, but the phoenix.
Yeah.
We will rise from the ashes, create the new utopia.
Yeah.
You know, not Marx.
No.
Fuck
We're
Marx.
not Marxists, and we're not fascists either.
But it will be an era led of freedom.
Freedom.
Platonian freedom.
Yeah. Well, and here's the question is how do, at this point, because I was thinking about this too, like this whole system and the way we change it and everything require a level of civic pride and civic duty that hasn't been asked of U.S. citizens in its existence.
What was the last time it was really talked about? JFK?
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
ask not what your government can do for you, but what you can do for, you know.
Yeah, we can harken back to the 20th century where we have these instances of civic pride and civic duty rising up. Like, you think about like World War II. Like, you really didn't have to draft much of anybody. No. After Pearl Harbor, the people were signing up in droves. Like, I was watching actually Hacksaw Ridge last night, and the main character of that, he's a 7-day Adventist, so he can't pick up a gun, he can't kill people or nothing like that, but he still wanted to serve as a medic. And at first, you know, you watch the movie and he has troubles. You just have to watch it for yourself. But like, he talks about how 2 guys from his town were labeled 4F when they tried to volunteer, and 4F is you're physically unfit to join. And he said they killed themselves. Yeah. I'm not asking for those levels of civic pride. No. Okay? But to have even a percentage of that would do marvelous things to this country.
I think that if you even take away the war aspect, like let's say we rise to power, you know, our Bones and Tubbs president, Vice President Toe Beans, you know. Yeah. We're in the office, and we're making these changes, and then all of a sudden some fucking Pearl Harbor shit happens or 9/11 shit happens, and then instead of us getting a civic duty to join up and go fight some people in another country, right, that don't speak our language, instead we find the person that orchestrated it, and we take Rothschild or fucking whoever else, Henry Kissinger, out in the middle of the street and shoot him in the fucking head.
Yeah.
You know, and go ahead, do it again.
Yeah.
You murdered 3,000 people.
Well, one thing we need to do, and guess what, everybody? If World War III doesn't start, I think I pinned down where the next war is going to be. We're going to Bolivia.
Really?
We're going to Bolivia. You know why?
Why?
Because the president just kicked out the Rothschilds.
Oh,
we're going to Bolivia.
It's over with.
Yeah.
It's over.
That's where we're going next. We're going to go give them lots of freedom.
I'm surprised that Iran hasn't got that freedom.
Oh.
Didn't they kick out the bankers a long time ago?
Yeah. Well, they did that shit back in the day.
Right. Like, what are we waiting on?
I don't see, you know, and that's a good question, but I don't know. Maybe we think Iran is a legitimate, like, would get us into a pretty nasty war.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a nice, healthy mix of people who are politically vindictive and religious beliefs mixed in with it, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a different story with Bolivia. You're just dealing with a government.
Yeah.
That could be toppled.
I was talking to Red, White, and Justin about this the other day. He gives me military updates on a random basis. Let's see. He said, where do you think the next... He basically asked me where I thought the next, war was going to pop off at. Mm-hmm. And I said, Korea, Yeah.
I
mean, if you just judge on all the saber rattling, I think that's what'll happen. And I said, what about you? And he said, Iran. And I said, what about the Strait of Hormuz? Because the Strait of Hormuz is dead.
Yeah, it died again.
Fuck. Well.
Okay, we're good. All right, and I think it's time for us to wrap up the episode.
Yeah, this patchwork episode is my fault. I forgot the SD card at home, and we've been having battery issues.
Yeah, but so to recap, this was the episode where we came up with the idea with the Platonian Party.
Yeah,
and it's where I don't think where our dreams of presidency arose, but where the dreams of the new age have begun.
The seed has sprouted.
Yes, it has begun.
Grow into a giant tree of freedom.
But we'd like to thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
We like to thank Ryan Simpson for letting us use his music.
Ooh.
We want you to check out our iTunes, Stitcher, Beyond Pod. I think I'm going to try to get us on Podbean too.
Yeah.
And
Podbean's a big one.
Do some anchor clips as well.
Copy.
I think I'm just going to do a couple of clips from each episode just to give people a taste so then they could go somewhere else and find the whole episode. Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Bait 'em.
But,
masturbators.
Yes, we're master baiters.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you all for listening, and we hope you stay tuned next time. We should be having some guests coming up. I know the doctor, he talked of interest of coming on the show.
We got in a couple weeks.
And Discoblius?
Discoblius, the Greek god of discus throwing.
Yes, he's going to be on the show.
Formerly frisbee thrower, now Disclobus.
I think we're going to play some pole games with him.
Yeah, TM.
Yeah, TM.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys for listening. Check out our webpage, check out our Facebook, check out Instagram. We're always posting stuff. But and we'd like to thank you all for listening. I know this episode's a little short. Like I said, we had some tech difficulties this week.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully next week everything will be fixed and ready to go.
We'll be back like a throbbing erection next week.
Definitively.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we hope you tune in next time, and we'll see you then.
We love you.
We really do.